Howdy, howdy, folks. Welcome to Saturday night's edition of the Simpademic. This is Jason. My voice is still starting to is just starting to recover here, but excuse me. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with this one tonight, and I got one question. I like just to be a little bit of back and forth on this one, and I got one question for everybody here, and I'll share my answer. And the question is, what is the best pickup line that you have ever used? And if there's women watching this, you feel free to answer as well. But I'm guessing that most of the answers on this one are going to come from the men. And so here's my answer to this one. And this is going to be somewhat amusing. And that question, and how it came out, is that this was not intended to be a pickup line at all. It was an accidental one. And I'm sure that for some people, that's going to be the result. And the reason why it is, and I think it's very common, if you're not thinking about saying things in the vein of trying to get the attention of somebody of the opposite sex, then that pressure doesn't exist. The approach anxiety doesn't exist when it's a situation such as I'm about to explain. And where this happened was in a workplace, actually. This is well before Me Too. This is well before any of that stuff was out there. I'm talking about late 1990s. And I'm in my 20s at this point. And a young lady, identical age as myself, came into the workplace, usual morning greetings and things like that. And she mentioned that, and I saw that her hairstyle was completely different. And she mentioned on the way by everybody that this was her poodle dog look. And she just went to the hairstylist the previous night. And I don't even know why I even thought of saying this, but I did. And I just said, I do not care what kind of breed that is supposed to be, but your hairstylist did an amazing job, and you look great. If you think about that for a minute, would anybody ever use something like that as an intentional line? Of course not. But I wasn't trying to do anything along that line at all. All I was trying to do was trying to compliment a young lady who I actually had a lot of respect for personally, who I thought was just, in general, a very good girl. And that's all that came out of. It didn't come out of any other place. This was not somebody who would ever be considered a perfect 10 by any imagination. She kind of had that librarian look down pretty good. And it triggered something there. That type of a compliment sparked something. Unintentionally, completely accidentally. But the next thing I knew, we were going to lunch together the next day. Long story short, that became about a 1.5 year relationship for me. And it's just kind of funny just thinking back to it, The best pickup line that I ever used was one that was not intended to be a pickup line. It was completely accidental. It was just meant to be kind of complimentary. And yet, it sparked something. And I think something to take out of this, for anybody is just that sometimes just being respectful and kind can take you to places that you don't expect. Because I sure as heck did not expect this at all. And the other thing is that if you break it down, taking away, making things not intentional, does take away that approach anxiety, and it does take away a lot of the fear that would come in a typical approach if you're looking at it from the angle of not necessarily approaching any sort of romantic attraction or interest. Because in this case, I certainly didn't have any at that point. This is one of those things that at its own speed developed. So that's my best one that I ever had. Again, it was the accidental one. I'd love to hear anybody else's stories out there. If anybody has one that is in a similar vein, or ones that are funnier and maybe in a little bit of a different vein, I sure would love to hear it. So Saturday Night Fun here with End the Simpademic. It's Jason. I will be back here tomorrow. And I'm not exactly sure what the heck I'm going to be talking about, but tonight I decided to have a little bit of Saturday Night Fun because it is Saturday night. If you're driving out there drinking up, don't drive. Pay for the Uber, pay for the Lyft. You know, a $500 car ride home with one of those apps is always going to be cheaper than a $15,000 DWI. So please don't do anything stupid. Please stay warm if you're in the Northland with me tonight. And you folks have a fantastic rest of the weekend. I shall see you tomorrow.